Hello everyone, Spicy Toast Gaming here, coming out with a patch notes video, going over the most recent patch notes that have been posted from the perspective of someone who only really cares about Path of Champions. So if you enjoy the video, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends, and let's get into this. So here's the overview of the buffs and nerfs that they released. As you can see, there's a lot of buffs for champions that are in Path of Champions, and there's some nerfs for cards that are somewhat key to some decks' functionality, like Tumble, and there's also Lee Sin. Alright, we have Varus here. Going to try to refresh the page since some of the things haven't loaded in. Alright, apparently it's just not going to load in. Alright, so they're lowering Varus' level up requirement from 8 to 7. That's not going to matter too much since you normally can level up Varus before he gets on the board. So, not bad, but won't matter too much. Okay, so now Jinx will be able to create the Super Mega Death Rocket on her level up. Before, she would level up, and then it was after she saw the hand get emptied. This will be more useful if you're not using Jinx with the Pow Pows, her specific relic that discards her entire hand. So this will be fairly useful, won't be a major change. Normally Jinx isn't really going to struggle anyways, but especially if you're just starting out with Jinx, this will be a nice change to get that first Death Rocket when you discard your hand. Alright, Jax is leveling up even easier. This again is more going to help your early game when you're just starting off with Jax. Normally you're able to level him up on the first turn, so it's not too big of a deal, but this will help in the early game with your Jax. Alright, so now it is going to happen at least 2 times, your snip. So again, this won't be too impactful for Path of Champions. Normally you're going to be getting much more, since this is your level 2 ability. But just in case your Gwen got frostbitten or something like that, it will actually still happen at least 2, at least get 2 drains off. So it's better than nothing, but in most situations, this won't apply to you. Alright, nerfs for Seraphine. So her level up is going to be more difficult since you need now 9 spells instead of 6. And the fan club is now going to a 5 cost. So this is only really going to hit Seraphine as a support deck, but I don't think normally you needed her level up. Not a huge deal at the moment. Be more of a pain if Seraphine would come into Path of Champions as a champion in the next patch, but that's still about a month away. Alright, Tumble is going to a 4 cost. That is actually going to hurt. Normally people like to play Vayne with the Lost Chapter, where you refill your spell mana when you play Vayne, and that would give you enough to play Tumble on your first round. But now with it being a 4 cost, you're not going to be able to do that. So that will hurt a decent amount. But her level 2 is going to reduce the cost just to 0. So it's going to be a little bit more painful in the beginning, but once you level her up, then you'll be fine. So you might want to get some cost reduction, like created cards cost 1 less. That would help mitigate this. It's not going to be a huge deal for Vayne. I think Vayne will still be very strong. This is a change, though, that you will definitely feel. Definitely if you're someone that like to run Lost Chapters, you could play Tumble in the first round. So that will actually hurt, but I think Vayne is still going to be a top tier deck. Lee Sin getting nerfed, cast now 10 spells instead of 8, as someone that was just playing Lee Sin, this isn't too bad. He is pretty high cost, so normally you're going to be able to still level him up before he comes on the board. But it is definitely going to be a little bit harder now. But for all the things for them to change with Lee Sin, this seems not too bad. Alright, Akshan. The countdown is now going to be 9. I actually like Akshan as a support champion for some decks. But this is going to be a fairly minor change, especially since he's just a support champion, it's not that bad. Okay, Swain is getting nerfed. This is more going to be a buff for players of Path of Champions, since Swain is normally a boss that you're fighting, especially for the weeklies. So this will actually make it just a bit easier for you. That being said, Swain was a champion I'd like to get as support, so it is a little sad seeing him get slightly nerfed. But overall, this will probably just be a benefit for players, as Swain is a popular boss. Alright, the Tellstones. So they're getting rid of healing potions. Yes, so they're getting rid of healing potions, so you can no longer use these as sustain. Now, Tellstones were just something that you would pick up in the shop, more likely. It wasn't actually a part of any decks. So this won't be a massive change, but you won't get any sustain anymore, which is a bit sad. Oh, this is a fairly big nerf here, the Simon Wind, changing it from burst to focus. That means you can no longer use it in response to an enemy attacking you. So this was actually very nice to have for Master Yi, to, in a panic situation, use it as a extra blocker. That's no longer going to be able to happen, so this will actually make Master Yi, especially in your more early game when you haven't leveled him up as much, will be a bit more difficult. Alright, Relentless Pursuit, they're changing it back to just a rally. Not really going to matter too much for Path of Champions. This was a good spell to get, and while yes, it is a nerf, it's not really going to matter too much. Golden Aegis, you're always playing this for free with Lux. You're normally not picking this up too often from the shop, so this won't matter too much. Oof, or Saga Seeker go into a 1-1. That's really going to hurt Kayn. So Kayn has a problem where his low-cost units already are relatively weak. So them getting even weaker, this is going to hurt for your Kayn decks. It's actually going to be a fairly big deal. Ionian Hookmaster, oh, going down 1. So this will be a little sad for the Hookmaster going from a 1-1 to a 0-1, but normally that won't make too much of a difference for your Jax deck. She was like the strongest card in your deck other than Jax normally, so that is going to be reduced a little bit, but one attack shouldn't make or break things. And then if you have leveled up Jax star powers, she'll still scale pretty well. So it's a bit sad, but honestly, this is less of a nerf than the Saga Seeker is for Kayn. So here's a buff. I've never actually played with this card in Path of Champions. I don't think this should matter for anyone too much. Swole Scout, this is part of Teemo's deck. Alright, that seems like a decent buff. When I'm summoned, grant me 1/1 for each Yordle ally. Normally you're already going to have a good amount of Yordles. And I don't think the newbie is a part of any decks or support champions, but this also isn't bad. Shatter, this is something you're normally going to get on Ashe. This going to 1 cost will be nice. It's a great card to pick up whenever you're playing an Ashe deck, so it being reduced even lower, definitely nice to have. This is actually also a good change for a Rime Fang. Normally, so this is part of Ashe's deck, and when it strikes a unit with 0 power, kill it, so you don't actually need the extra attack. So having more health to use this as a blocker, and then having it just kill your 0 power allies is actually kind of a bit more of a buff. So yeah, that's actually going to be not bad. All right, Hex Obliterator. That will be actually slightly annoying. I've only seen enemies use this. So it goes from 5 damage to 6 damage. Trying to see if it will actually give us the image there. Okay, there we go. So Celestial Impact, obliterate a unit or landmark, heal your Nexus 3. This is decent. This is one that sometimes you see in like a Pantheon or ASOL when you have them as a support champion. Before, the 7 mana just to obliterate a unit or landmark always felt way too expensive to really use this, but also getting that buff to healing your Nexus, not bad. Oh, that's slightly mixed up. Alright, Ravenbloom Conservatory. You're usually going to be using this on Annie. She doesn't come with it baseline, but normally you'll see it in a run. Having its countdown reduced by 1 is okay. Normally you're playing so many spells and skills that it's not really going to make too much of a difference. Broadmane is also with Annie. Going to a 3-5, definitely nice. He always felt a little useless before. I don't really see this card too often in Path of Champions, so I don't think this will really make too much of a difference one way or the other. Duelist also doesn't really get played much. So yeah, most of these cards here don't really get played in Path of Champions too often, so their change probably won't make too much of an impact. The Escape the Abomination, this gets played a decent amount in any Shadow Isles opponent. This could be helpful or could be a pain. Sometimes the fact that it had such a weak health line that you could just take it out with most spells was pretty nice. But it having slightly less attack could also be a benefit. Bone Club going to 5-5. This will definitely be nice for Ornn, but honestly won't make too much of a deal. Alright, Wrathful Rider going to 8-3. That shouldn't change too much. Same with Shadowblade Fanatic. Gorelith. All these cards, these 3 are not really seen too often in Path of Champions. Dusk Rider, you do actually see this a decent amount. So going to be 1 cheaper, but 1 less health. Won't really make too much of an impact one way or the other. Same with Reaver's Row. This actually will be decent. This is for Udyr. So now it's going to buff all of your champions or all of your units everywhere. It's not just the ones you have on board. So that'll make Udyr a little bit better. Rot Colossus. This was one that was always cool to see in Ornn builds, but it was always really too expensive to use. Them making the created copy cost now 4 might actually be worth playing. Oh, the Darkened Ballista. This will actually be massive. So quite often with Kain, the first time Kain's unit kills an enemy and survives, it creates a random equipment in hand. It was always annoying when you got the Darkkin Ballista, because it used to always damage your own Nexus by 1 when you'd equip it. It was very annoying to deal with, especially when you'd have someone die and you have to re-equip it on someone else. So now that you actually be able to use that and not feel bad about equipping on allies will be very nice. Pathless Ancient, again, you're not really playing this yourself. Oh, thank goodness, Voids. This is a huge buff for Kai'Sa. So Void Seeker can now hit champions after you've evolved. So before, this could just hit only followers, which was very annoying, especially when you play against someone like Zoe, where you'd want to get rid of her when she'd come on the board, and quite often I'd have a Void Seeker in hand, but I couldn't target her because it wasn't a follower. And so now actually being able to use that and not have that limitation, this will be very nice for Kai'Sa. Her spells, not the best, honestly, especially when they have this restriction. So this will actually be a lot better. It still has to be evolved, but that's fine. At least you'll be able to actually use this most of the time. This will probably be a buff. Electro Harpoon is cheaper than Keeper's Verdict. Keeper's Verdict was like 7 mana, and it was like a recall. Electro Harpoon, you deal like 1 or 2 damage to the Nexus in a unit, and it costs, I think, 3 mana. But again, you're not going to start with this. It's not too big of a deal. Alright, new champion skins. They all look cool. We'll go through the bug fixes. Visual bugs, where AI names are being cut off from Path Champions. Nice. Fix an issue where non-created cards were being given incorrect discounts from Victor and Path Champions. Alright, I think that's it for the patch notes. I was just trying to read through these with you guys and giving them my thoughts as someone who's just playing Runeterra for Path of Champions. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I plan on doing this for every patch notes drop. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. And if you have any friends that play Runeterra, share the video, and hope you guys have a great day. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching that video all the way to the end. If you did enjoy it, please like and subscribe. We're putting out multiple videos every single day for Path of Champions content. So if that interests you, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and welcome to the channel. Have a great day.